Hi guys, I'm going to be doing a little curved cross-hatching on this very bright and happy quilt. This is a quilt done by my friend Barb Weissman. She is a very prolific quilter. I can't even keep up with her. She makes some beautiful, beautiful quilts. This one is fusible applique, and I'll be showing you a little bit later how I quilt those applique pieces down. This is the set-in triangles on the side that I'm going to be doing some cross hatching on and some feathering around. Let's see, this thread that I'm using is a glide thread by Quilting, and it is a 40 weight, but it shows up really great on the on that colorful fabric. And I'm also using a okay, I'm putting you in my camera mount here. To do the cross hatching, I'm using a ruler by the Quilted Pineapple, a QP curve. This is the number 38. You can see right there. This particular set of rulers, Linda does the same curve here as she does here, so you can use either side depending on where your hands need to be and where it's comfortable. You know, you always have the same curve on both sides. Not all ARC's guides are the same way, but Linda does that, and that really does come in handy. So I'm going to be using this for my cross hatching. So let's get started. You can see I'm moving my hand down the guide because you really should have your hand next to the machine, to the needle. And I'm going to come up here, travel a little bit until my foot is right on the edge of the previous stitching line. That way I know when I take off and stitch again, I'm going to be having a line that is a 1/4 inch from the line that I just stitched on. And I'm just going to line up my guide and go again. Okay, and there you can see I've got, that is a 1/4 inch line. And now I'm going to travel across the ditch here and a 1/2 inch, because these squares over here these stitched lines are 1/2 inch apart. You'll notice this ruler has lines etched on it, and those are a 1/4 inch. And what happens if I put my previous stitching line, this is the edge of the ruler, and if I put my previous stitching line right underneath this first etched line, this distance from the line to the edge of the ruler plus the distance from the foot to the needle gives me 1/2 inch. So that's how I'm going to line up and make sure that I stay on track. And so I'm just traveling over here until I travel enough that that line ends up right on top of my stitching line. I think you can see that pretty well. And then I'm just going to stitch. Okay, so there you see that I've got a 1/4 inch kind of just to give this section an outline, and then this is the start of the cross hatching. So I'm just going to go, and you can hang with me and watch if you'd like. One thing I do want to point out is that before I started this, I stitched in the ditch all the way around this triangle for a couple reasons. It holds your piece that you're working on in place. It keeps it from getting stretched one way or the other. So you've got your piece outlined, it's stabilized, and that helps it stay square while you're stitching. But also, because I am traveling like this, I'm going to travel up where I've already stitched so that I can stitch my next line. It's nice to have that already stitched down. It just, to me, it just kind of is like a beaten path. It's already knocked down, it's pushed down, and it's easy to make sure that I stay nice and neat on my edges. So I do try to outline things before I quilt them. Now as I'm coming up to this corner, I am going to end up breaking my thread, or not breaking my thread, I'm going to knot my thread, and lots of times you try not to have to knot your thread and clip and have to restart just because it's quicker and easier, but in this case I need to come back down here. I didn't really want to start in that corner, so I'm going to, and I don't want to stitch again. You just get too many layers of stitching and it looks messy, so it's worth it to pull that up. And by the way, I don't know if you can see it very well. This is not it, that's just a stray thread. The top thread I told you was a Glide 40 weight. You probably are having a tough time. Oh, you can see a little bit of the shine right there. This is actually the bobbin thread, and it is an invisible thread. I know they say, oh, you're not supposed to use that in the bobbin. I do a lot because this, like for instance, this backing fabric is a very dark purple, and I didn't want a lot of the stitching to show up because I'm not perfect and it just kind of makes it look neater on the back. If you have a high contrasting thread, I mean, you certainly can, but oops, I went too far. It just, to me, it looks neater. I'm having a little bit of a tough time seeing. Let me change my position, that's better. I need to flatten that out a bit. Okay. So there you can start to see, I'm having a little bit, I'm double batted here. I just need to flatten that. There we go. That should be better. I have this quilt double batted because I wanted to really have the applique stand out. And again, as I'm coming close to this, got a couple little stitches there that came over, but we're okay. Okay. Okay, so now before I start, I'm just going to make sure that that's there, that works better. Line up. So I'm just going to stop right here. I think you've seen a lot of that. There you can see this beautiful cross hatching. Their lines are again 1/2 inch apart, and I'll finish this and then I'll show you how I do the feathers on the side. Okay, I finished the 1/2 inch curved cross hatching, and now I'm going to do the feathering. You can see the feathers down the side here. These little teardrop shapes are called feathers. The type of feathering that I do, it's actually it's called a long arm feather, where I just stitch the shape and then kind of follow along that contour and stitch another one. A lot of people do something called a bump back feather. I don't do that at all. I don't like to have to trace and have an extra layer of stitching around the tip of every other one. A bump back feather would be that you would you would quilt on the, I stitch this inward curve first and then the outward. A bump back feather, you'd actually stitch the outward curve, come to here and stop where that stitching would meet the last one, trace and stitch back over that, and then come around and stitch the next one, come around, stop, trace that stitching, and then stitch the next one. But that's not what I do. They're beautiful, no problem. It's just, it's kind of like handwriting, whichever way you like best. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a feather and get going. And there we are done. So let me just tie this off and move the machine away, bring it back, and then take that stitch up and down to pick up the bobbin thread. I clip it off, pull the machine away, clip my threads, and now you can see, let's take you on a little tour here. You can see the cross hatching in the corner and the feathers down there. And let's just take a little drive over here. That was the corner of the quilt, obviously, and then these are the set-in triangles. Instead of half a design, it is a full triangle. So there you go. Okay, so that's curved cross hatching in some set-in triangles, and we will take a look a little bit later on how I use invisible thread to go around fusible applique. Thanks, have a great one.